Here we are, Friday evening edition of Ned Talk. Who would have thought? Certainly not Jay Stevens, who's not here. If you
he's not here.
tuned in to hear the dulcet tones of Jay Stevens singing classic rock songs, you're out of luck.
Today.
You're to listen to these four jabronis talk about sports as we get set for the Chiefs and they're playing Arizona tonight, right?
Yep, in
Arizona.
Sweat.
I'm Joe Westen, by the way. Ned Reynolds, the namesake of the show, sitting right across from me. How are you, Ned?
Doing just great, thanks. Weather's perfect. It's perfect for football. We need to get out and play a little pigskin stuff right now.
I don't know about Arizona perfect for football though.
Oh, it is there. This is a dome stadium.
That's true.
And it'll
Hey,
be
we'll
nice
do
and
2-on-2. Ned and I versus you two.
Oh, man.
Out front.
Here we go. That's a great matchup.
Perfect. Jake Gullett is with us. He has not been with us for a while, but he's back in the studio. Jake, how are you?
It worked out today. Thanks for asking me. You're a very persistent person.
I know. Well, we want you on the show. The persistence comes from this guy.
Oh, well, thanks, Ned.
Yeah. When's Jake going to be back? When's Jake going to be back? I don't want to talk to you guys. I want to talk to Jake.
Oh, God.
Mike, the intern, with us again. Mike, how are you?
Tired of me because we talk every morning. So he's like, "Oh, not the intern
again."
Let's get right to it. How much of the game did you watch? I know, Ned. Let's start out. Let's start like a telethon or something for Ned, a collection.
No.
He's a cable cutter, and he couldn't watch the game last week.
The station that it was on is not on my system, but that's all right because you can visualize what's going on, and the cell phones do help. I'm going to tell you exactly what the biggest challenge in tonight's game, the Chiefs and the Arizona Cardinals, the biggest challenge. I want you to keep this in mind. It's subliminal. But you know where they're playing? State Farm Stadium. Is Jake from State Farm going to be there?
Oh, Lord.
And is he going to get thousands of pizza boxes?
Oh, man.
Okay.
It's preseason.
So Ned Reynolds, who will tell you that he's 800 years old, watched the game or watched the plays being diagrammed on his cell phone last week. What did you glean from that?
The fact that the game was pretty worthless, as a matter of fact. You didn't get anything out of it at all. And when Mahomes is in for one series and throws two passes, that ain't any kind of game. Now, tonight's going to be a little bit different because Andy Reid has already said Mahomes will play a quarter and a half and maybe 2 quarters.
Yep.
And most of the starting team will play a first half. How they do against an Arizona team that is not going to match them player for player because they aren't playing their first team. Kyler Murray will play, and some of their running backs, but their offensive line is going to be the second and third team. They just don't want to take any chances. So I look for the Chiefs to rack up some big scores.
They should, as they should.
How much of the game did you watch, Jake?
I watched Pat do his thing. Then I fast forwarded to the end because I knew I didn't get to watch the game. I'm kind of like Ned here. I have YouTube TV. That's no plug. They're not sponsoring anything here, but because I knew we won and I want to know how. And then I started reading. I'm like, oh, I got to see this 2-minute warning or 2-minute warning or 2-minute drill with a guy named Shane Buechele. Yeah, Bobby Buechele.
Yeah,
but it was one of those. I wanted to see how they did it because the funny thing is, if you watch the game, the commentator said, if who they play last week? I've already forgot.
Dallas,
come on.
Cardinals played Dallas.
No. Chiefs. San Francisco. When San Francisco scored, the commentator's like, if they score here, they're going to win the game. And I already knew at the time because I was like you. I didn't get to see till the next day, but I was happy to see. I kind of disagree with you, Ned. I like the game. It was competitive, 19-16. That's a lot of points for a little preseason game with some nobodies out there.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
But, Jake, the point is that the players are going to see during the regular season weren't there. Who are these guys? They'll be playing in the XFL, or if that even ever comes to life.
I disagree with you there. And I was texting Mike because I did exactly the opposite of what I normally do, and that is what Jake does. I watched the first part of it, and then I'm out. But I watched the second half. And I was impressed with a couple of kids that I saw, and Mike and I were texting back and forth about those guys on defense.
Yeah, I listened to the first half because that's the only way you should enjoy these games is listen to them right here on 104.7 The Cave. But then after that, I watched the second half, and the thing that I was happy about. I'll say that what I was happy about first. I was happy about the depth that I saw. There was a lot of really good defensive plays. Ward stepped up big time.
Yes, he did.
Had some cornerback step up that was really good. There were guys that were kind of on the cusp last year. You can kind of see that have developed, which is always good. The thing that obviously Shane Buechele's drive in the fourth quarter was like, oh my God. He did have help. Those receivers made some catches on some throws that were kind of
They were some one-handers.
They could have went the other way. They
Yep.
could have went the other way all day, but they didn't, and they made their play. So that also shows good depth, especially what's going on the receiver side of things with the Chiefs. And then the thing that kind of let me down was kind of what Ned said. I mean, Patrick came out for a series. All this noise has been made about the offensive line all year since February, and that was my biggest thing is how are these guys going to play this game? I think tonight, hopefully we'll see that. We'll maybe see more of a game management side from Mahomes, maybe trying to run the ball and to actually see what this offensive line can do. However, that's right, because they're not going against some of the
the Cardinals are not going to use their usual starting lineup. They will on offense, but not on defense. So it'll be interesting to see how they work. And guys, I'm anxious to see who wins the third string quarterback job for Kansas City, if in fact they keep one. You guys are probably not familiar with Shane Buechele. I know you are. His dad played Major League Baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And Shane himself began his career at Texas. He was the Longhorns starting quarterback. After a couple of years, I think he had some disagreements with the coaching staff down there, but leaving and went to SMU and had a very good close of his career at Southern Methodist, but not good enough to get him drafted. And here he is with the Chiefs trying to earn a place on their team. He is a good passer. He has a good arm, and he has a good athletic mindset about him because he comes from an athletic family. But does that guarantee him a place on the team? Not hardly. I think he's going to have to earn it. I think he would be a very good backup, a third string backup, because Henne is going to be the second team and not going to play very much. But there's also a guy who has made a career in the National Football League. And by career, I'm talking 12, 13 years now of carrying a clipboard, a former quarterback who you guys are quite familiar with out of the University of Missouri. Thank you. And he's still playing. And the fact Chase Daniel, and he is still capable. But that's the kind of guy that, you have to envy because he's made a load of money. Hasn't really gotten hit hard.
And he doesn't hurt the next morning.
Oh, not hardly.
He's
No.
Brain trauma maybe
True.
in his life.
You're listening to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave, your pregame show. We're getting set for the start of the pregame, the Chiefs pregame. That starts at 6 o'clock with Art Haynes and the crew, and then kickoff is right around 7 as the Chiefs take on the Cardinals right here on 104.7 The Cave. Let's go back to that, Ned, what you were talking about, because there's a lot of discussion around the Chiefs. No team keeps 4 quarterbacks. The Chiefs frequently only keep 2. Do you see them keeping 3 this year?
Yeah, I do, because of so many variables involved. The injury factor, Mahomes didn't make it clean last year. He did get banged up a little bit, and he had to have Henne in on occasion. And of course, Patrick is a very motivated individual, so he didn't last very long on the sidelines. But you never can tell. And having a third quarterback, I think, is pretty important. A guy who does have some level of talent. Gordon has played well, but I really think Buechele is the guy they're looking at more closely than anything else. And I think he'll get in the second half tonight quite a bit of playing time.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's smart for them to have a third, because why put that stress on the whole team? Because how many times you see a player, not so much the starter, but like Chad Henne, getting hurt during practice during the week, pulls a hammy, pulls a groin. Then now you're scrambling around because you have to have a backup to your starter. So why not have 3 guys? And like you said, let them sit there and learn some things. Carry that clipboard, put that earpiece in, and listen to what's going on. And you're watching the best player in the NFL right now. So
exactly.
Mike?
Also, you just mentioned Chad Henne. We kind of glazed over him last week. He did a great. I mean, he was the first guy to score a touchdown for the Chiefs, and it's almost like last year's kind of something happened with his mojo. When he did step up and things were clicking with him. I mean, he didn't lose it. He looked just like he did last year, which is great to see in a backup. I mean, he's definitely going to be more of a game manager, but and he's a little bit older. But I was very pleased with his performance as well.
It's interesting to hear that that's kind of the drama that surrounds these preseason games. You got 4 guys for possibly 2 spots. One of them's taken. No, they're not going to go, well, Patrick, you're not good enough anymore. We're going to cut you for this guy. So And Chad Henne probably got that number 2
yeah,
slot, but
definitely.
will the Chiefs keep a third guy? Should be interesting to see. What did you see? What did you get out of the offensive side, if you got anything at all?
The fact that they're able to play under the circumstances that they had, there really isn't anything you can derive from that, because these are not the first team players. Offensive line was in there for a couple of series. That's what I really wanted to see. These are all good players. I mean, Orlando Brown, come on. These guys are really talented, but they are missing a few important experienced players.
Tardif.
Duvernay Tardif is not in there. There are some others. Remmers may play a little bit tonight, but he still has the back problems. The fact is, offensive line, while it is completely overlooked by most football fans, is the key. It was not overlooked in the Super Bowl game. That indeed was the key factor involved in Kansas City's not playing well. The fact that they're big, muscular people and quick doesn't necessarily predicate they're playing well. You have to work together. You have to know the offensive scheme, and that's what I want to see tonight, how well they are protecting, how well they use the pullback blocks, how well they use the off blocks, the brush blocks. I think it's an interesting circumstance what you're going to see.
I agree. I will tell you what my take from last week, and as far as the offense, yes, you got one of the best captains in the league with Mahomes. He's going to rally the troops, and with him, anything's possible. What I'm tired of is going to the kitchen while Butker's trying to kick a PAT, because I will not watch that crap. And I'm telling you, I get up, nope. And then, the kids will be like, he made it. I know he missed 6 last year, and he starts off this year missing 1. It's in his head. How can you sit there and kick on average like a 40 to 50 and make him every time, but then a little 30 yard?
It's in his head.
Oh, it's in his head. 100%.
But to his credit, at one point last year when that was happening, and he said that they had to go back and kind of correct some stuff. And after that point, it seemed like it had fixed. So hopefully, maybe they need to go back and fix some
but
stuff.
during the winter and the summer, it didn't get fixed.
It came back. I don't know. But yeah,
you don't want to see that getting in his head early in the year.
No.
That's a big.
But maybe get it out of the system.
I did see a story the other day out of the Chiefs camp that they have dismissed one of the reporters that said is Butker a problem? No. We're working. He's fine and all that sort of thing, glossing over it. But it has to be a consideration for them. That's a key element of the game, guys, a key element.
Yeah.
And they cut a bit of the payroll to get him on there.
He's a good kicker. But yeah, we'll have to see. Something else I was kind of also about the offense last week. Noah Gray, everyone just, shouting from the rooftops how awesome this guy was, and then you go out there and drop that pass, and I was like,
Let me ask Jake a quick question. You didn't by any chance make it to our little rally that we had with Mitch Holdis?
I did not. I double booked myself that night.
Mitch is great. He does a terrific job of previewing, reviewing. Well, anyway, somebody in the front row asked him a question about, well, if Kelsey, I think it was, is that the question? If Kelsey gets injured, what are you going to do? And then he named all these draft picks that the Chiefs didn't get. And I mean, Mitch is right on the spot. I have 2 words for you: Noah Gray. And Mitch is really high on this guy. The Duke University
everyone
guy.
is.
He's quick. But he dropped a pass.
Did he? Okay, but the first pass was behind his back and it was intercepted?
Yeah, it wasn't a great pass, but at the
I heard the second one he had to outstretch and actually dive for it. It just hit him in the tips of the fingers.
But at the same time, if you're in
the NFL,
position, you see 87 making those catches.
It's
right?
true. No, you're right.
And I do not take this as this is a poo-poo party on Noah Gray. I still have high hopes for him, and I want it, but kind of what you were saying about Butker was that in his head. You know what I mean? It's his first year, first game. You're almost playing almost in first team status at this point, and then now you're on the clock. Figure it out. It's not 7-on-7 drills anymore. It's the real deal.
Mm-hmm.
Is that in his head too? Hopefully, if he gets it, hopefully they give him another chance tonight, and it's not in his head, and it's all good.
I will tell you. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Going into this season, my number one question is how long will Kelsey last? He's 31, 32. We've got to find that kid that's going to back him up, because every game I'm like, okay, please nobody get hurt, right?
Don't get hurt. Don't get hurt. Yep.
And he's getting up there in age. That's the only reason. And so I hope this Noah kid can.
I really think he. I mean, from what I watch it because of what we do. I watch a ton of tape, post. It's like if you're on social media on Twitter during camp, it's like any kind of catch that's made is posted.
Yeah.
So you can see what he's doing in his understanding of the way the offense works. Is he's fit right into that role, and he could. Would he be as good as 87 in this season? No. But it's almost as if we got blessed again when you look at the Alex Smith Mahomes handoff, and now we've got a Kelsey possible Noah Gray handoff, and you've got a mentee situation. That's what I'm seeing.
No, you're making a very good point too, because he is vulnerable. That 32, you may pass it off as being, come on, he's a kid. He is taking some hits in there. He's also blocking very well. Yep. He's a big physical player, but he is also 32 years old, and that's going to catch up. And look at the other tight ends, a John Mackey, a Tony Gonzalez, people of that caliber. These were great tight ends, and this is just about the time that they began to maybe slip a tiny little bit. I think that's what will happen to Kelsey, but probably a very gradually decline. I don't want him to completely slip down unless he gets injured, which who knows? It's a game of physical contact, and those things can happen.
Yep.
One of the most interesting things about the Chiefs is, besides watching the quarterback battle, is the wide receivers, because they have a ton of talent in the wide receivers position. And you've got a bunch of kids coming in trying to win slots in that Chiefs wide receiver core, which is considered the best in the NFL. Did you see anything from anybody in the game that caught your attention?
I did not, although Tyreek Hill did not play. You're right.
He had one catch.
I guess he did. He did have
He
one
played
catch.
some.
That's right. He did play a little bit. I think he plays a whole lot more tonight. And I think we're going to see what he can do. Tyreek Hill's another one. I mean, if you keep him healthy, he is a game breaker, just like Otis Taylor way back 50 years ago. These guys have that innate skill to be able to do that. As far as other receivers are concerned, and you're right, Joe, they do. They have a great stable of receivers on this team, and Mahomes can get the ball to them. I think, no, as far as somebody standing out, and I didn't really find anybody who particularly fit that caliber, but then again, it's the first game of the year, and you're not going to find that.
I want to talk about this one guy that I saw. He played most of the second half. He's listed as the fourth string in the Chiefs defensive line, behind Taco Charlton, behind Mike Dana, behind Frank Clark, and that's Tim Ward. And he was impressive.
Yeah,
he was very, very impressive.
Two
sacks.
Yeah. Yep.
And he was around every play, which is what you like to see with somebody that plays the defensive line. Even if the play went away from him and was upfield, he was right there on it. And the announcers during the game, I heard them say, well, it's Tim Ward in. He's in on another play. Mm-hmm. Fourth-string guy was impressive. And then there was a kid in the secondary, Baker, a draft pick that they picked up that looked very, very good in what we saw too.
Yeah, and that's good. That's a good point, because we don't know what's going to happen with Frank Clark here in the next couple of months. We got some lingering legal issues, I think. He is going to play, but if a guy like Tim Ward, he's been with us, this is his third year. So he's made a lot of he's shown that he can do the job, and that was awesome. And I know he's playing against second, third string San Francisco kids, but still, I mean, it's the biggest stage in the world.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be back in just a minute. More sports talk as we get set for the beginning of the game. It's just about an hour and 40 minutes away. Pre-game show with the Art Haynes. We'll call ourselves the pre-party. And we're talking about Chiefs football, among other things, as we get set for the start of the second preseason game. One of the interesting stories I saw during the course of the week, Ned, was I believe it was Trey Wingo, former ESPN guy, that said he was a bit surprised by how aggressive the Chiefs are being with their play this week. What are your thoughts?
Well, is he in regards to the Cardinals game coming up, or last week's game?
Actually, this week, because of coming out right away, and Andy Reid saying half for our starters.
Keep in mind now there are only 3 games.
Yeah, and I was wondering if you thought that played into it, that Andy Reid's looking at this as game 3 of what normally would happen for preseason.
A very good assessment on your part. Yeah, I think this is their dress rehearsal tonight. then next week, even though they have 2 weeks before the kickoff, I think next week you'll see a token appearance by these guys, depending on what they do tonight. And then from there on in, of course, the big cut comes on August 31st, which will be 4 days, I think, after the last game. So there will be a lot of guys who are out there to prove themselves, and that will be a proving ground for them, that final game.
Interesting, just the way all this is played out, because we've talked about it so much as we've headed into the season about how the season's expanded by a game and the preseason's been cut back by a game. No preseason last year. Do you think this makes a difference, Jake, the way they look at things and how they prepare?
Oh, it has to be, because they're playing an extra real game. Like, preseason's always been a joke, right? Who watches preseason? Oh, you watch Mahomes play 4 snaps, and then you go, okay, let's see what's on Dateline. No, I take you have your diehard.
Speak for yourself,
Sorry,
man.
But, no, but
Speak for yourself.
I'm kidding, but I'm also being a realist that sometimes people just want to see the stars play, and then it's like, okay, whatever. Where the real fan base is looking for the future and see what we got out there.
Yeah.
But you know what? I agree with Trey Wingo. Foot on the gas pedal. I'm tired of Chiefs football being, hey, we're up by 19. Let's take it easy, prevent defense, and blah blah blah. And the next team. So if this is the 8 ball of like, are we going to just kick some ass this year? Yes, that's it.
What do you think, Mike?
I think as far as the last thing you said, I really think that's just Coach Andy Reid. That's his style. But as far as the aggressiveness, I think we're seeing it play out. With who would know until it would happen? And Reed's one of the trendsetters, and him saying this is going to be the dress rehearsal and let's see how it goes. He could see everything he wants to see in quarter 1 and say, okay, it's not worth it pulling. And I think when that is the decision he and his coaching staff make in real time, because they run things and see things. And if they can see what they want to see, why show your hand? Andy Reid doesn't show his hand. And that's a reason why you don't see, Mahomes making backwards dunk side passes and stuff and all these crazy things that happen in the regular season, trick plays, weird formations, all these things. He doesn't pull those out. He just wants to see the momentum, how it works, how these guys are, who's going to fit in. And you've got, not to mention, you've got the tight end situation. You've got the linebacker situation. Who's going to make that quarterback situation. But you also got a pretty interesting situation on offensive line with all these young bucks coming up, and who are they actually going to go with? And I think we'll definitely probably have a really good idea what direction they're going with after tonight.
Ned, what about you?
I was reading some comments today by Kyler Murray, who is going to make the start time. This will be his first start. He didn't play at all last week against the Cowboys. And they said, Kyler, how do you feel about this? And after all, you're still a newcomer in the league. You played a year, but you're still relatively new. And he said, the game doesn't mean anything. It means nothing to me. It does to some of the other players, and I will give it 100%. But in terms of being emotionally ready for something like this and giving it my all, yeah, I'll probably do that. But again, it means nothing. It's an exhibition game. You don't want to get hurt. And I think once a player has that, and they all do, come on, except for the rookies and the free agents and people like that who are trying to hang on. The players, there is a certain intrinsic value about these guys. They know it doesn't count. It doesn't mean a thing. So you're probably not going to put forth your full effort. And that, I think, reflects on what you were saying. Andy Reid can have all the positive aspects of life that he wants in terms of football. But there is a certain realism to what's going on.
Let me ask you this, though. Do you think Michael Jordan ever said, it's just a preseason game?
Did he ever play in any preseason game?
Yeah, he did.
Well, Michael Jordan and Pete Rose and some of these dedicated athletes are different. They're different styles.
But don't you think Patrick Mahomes is one of those guys too?
We weren't talking about Patrick Mahomes. We're talking about Kyler Murray.
Well, yeah, I know, but it's just that you don't want to hear your quarterback say that. Your team leader.
I do think that Patrick Mahomes gives his all every time out, but I also think deep in the back of his mind,
I need to stay healthy.
Yeah, don't get hurt.
That what you're talking about, Kyler, reminds me of Allen Iverson. Not the game, practice.
We're talking about practice.
We're talking about practice. I still watch that video sometimes and laugh at that.
It's the greatest
Jordan
interview ever.
I mean, you watched the Jordan documentary, right?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody did. It's probably one of the most, in recent years, sports documentaries. It was so good But one thing you get out of that is Michael Jordan is the most intense, competitive male that I've ever seen in my life. I mean, and it shows. He gets done winning championships and he wants to play poker with you on the back of the plane to prove to you that he's a better poker card player, whatever it is. I don't care what it is. You want to see who can throw this paper wad into the trash can as far as he would set, and he's that type of guy. You know, guys like that, but Michael Jordan is like the biggest. That I know Patrick Mahomes is a competitive person and he's a great team leader, but I don't think that's in his DNA like that. I don't really think that he's constantly trying to prove himself to everyone around him. There's a difference between being a leader and being talented and then being just overly, I want to destroy you and everything that you do. And that's Michael Jordan.
Let's stop and talk about this for a second, because I think it puts us in a really interesting sports area, and that's killer instinct. And you see some guys have it and some guys don't. And Michael Jordan was that guy. If he got his foot on your throat, it was over.
Oh, yeah.
And in baseball, I would say that Derek Jeter was that sort of guy, that the competitive level for him, now it's a different sport, it's a different way that it's played. But if he leading that Yankees team, if they got their foot on your throat, it was over. And I think Patrick Mahomes kind of fits in that category too. I mean, he may be different in just the overall level that he pushes himself competitively, as far as, you know, paper wads or poker or whatever, but I still think he's that type of guy.
Now,
and how does that match with Andy Reid?
Well, also this is interesting you brought this up today, because I read an article, I don't know if it was Arrowhead Pride or wherever, it was talking about how he wants to play till he's 45 years old. He's smart enough to understand that there is a level of what you can do if you really want to play that long in this league the way it's played. Now, granted, they do protect the quarterbacks all day long. It's not the same game it used to be. So it's feasible to say that he could probably pull that off. But he's not going to be able to go like that all the time. And in preseason, make sure everything works. Coach is happy. Move on.
In Tampa Bay's games, how much has Tom Brady played?
Probably nothing.
See, that says it all right there. And when the boss gives his approval, as he did, the fact remains, though, that there are certain levels of athletes who understand their importance to a team, and they understand how they need to take care of themselves. Brady is a great example. What is he, 43?
Yep.
And he's just won a Super Bowl. He's the kind of guy who knows what to do. So does Mahomes. Mahomes is too, but he's a lot younger and has a much different perspective on what to do. That's not to say he doesn't realize his importance to the team. He does indeed. It all is upstairs, guys. It's in the cranium as to how you're going to motivate yourself and what it takes. And it's different for everybody.
Well, and the way that you stay in the game for 40, he's 43. Look at what he did for the last 20 years. Slot receivers, 5 and out. Like, we're talking, the Patriots were not flashy ever. This was get the ball out of your hands in 2.5 seconds.
Yep.
Mahomes being a part of a different generation, and of course they like the big plays. It's a known fact that let's hit Tyreek Hill for an 80-yarder or whatever. So the mindset is, how fast can I get rid of this ball? And then the game, like at that point, the defenses stop coming after me. They got to focus on another part of the game.
And you know what else, Jake, that they like to do and hear is the crowd.
Oh, yeah.
And when the crowd is going to cheer a whole hell of a lot more for an 80-yard pass than they will for a dunk and a dink out here and so forth and so on, even though it's going to win for you.
You wonder, that's a good point, because Arrowhead, what is it, 142 point, what is it,
146.2, I think, 146.2.
That's the decibel on
the decibel. So they are known for being the loudest crowd, where up at Foxborough, those people kind of sat in their seats, and not that they're sitting there like, oh, that's such a good play, like a golf clap thing. But what I'm saying is, you're right. Depending on the atmosphere you're in, what's the coaches how they're going to react to it? How's the quarterback going to react to it? How the other players? So Brady was in, again, that he was, to me, was a program player. Now, he showed some things this year in Tampa Bay. He said, I don't need you, Bill Belichick. I can do this with another team. And he did. And so, but yeah, it depends on how smart he can be.
It's called home field advantage.
Yes, it is.
We're about 25 minutes away from the start of the pregame show. You're listening to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave. Yes, we are getting set for our next Chiefs broadcast. It is happening in just 18 minutes. Art Haynes and the crew will come to you from Arizona. Actually, Art will be in Kansas City, but the rest of the crew will be in Arizona with the crowd and with the rest of the fans there. It's good to see everybody back in the stadiums as the Chiefs take on the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray tonight, starting at 7 o'clock. That will be kickoff. Let's change gears a little bit and let's talk about some college football because that's getting ready to start too, flying under the radar a little bit as we get ready for the NFL season. But super conferences, they're coming.
There's no question about it. That's the way it's going to end up with super conferences, probably 4 or 5 of them. This is my opinion, but in quadrants around the country representing the different geographic regions where they are. So the day now, it's not going to be right away, folks, but the days of the Big Ten as such and the SEC and the ACC, they're dwindling. We're not going to see it very much longer. And you'll have the geographic conferences because the 100, I think the number is 138 right now, of Division 1A football teams, or FCS as they call them, are all going to be going into these quadrants. That's how you divide the money. And the money is huge from these playoffs and the television that's going to come with it. Right now, we're graduating on to 12 playoff games, and I think that's probably going to change even more in the very near future. I haven't had the 12 yet. We'll probably have that for a couple of years, and then on to 16, so that everybody gets a chunk of that pie, and it is a very, very lucrative cake or pie or whatever pastry you want to put in there with it.
Making me hungry.
There's a note right now, as a matter of fact, that the Big Ten Conference, the ACC, and the Pac-12 are all talking about an alliance. Well,
wow.
There it is right there.
But geographically, that's all over the map.
It is all over the map, but what they'll do is, in my opinion, they'll take the teams from those regions eventually, and that alliance will be split. The ACC teams will play Big Ten teams in and around that area, and then the Pac-12 will morph their schedule to where they can come east and play some games. It all depends on the money.
Let me ask you guys this. Do you see a playoff to get into the playoff?
Oh, gosh, I haven't thought that far.
Well, you're talking about the ACC, which is the Atlantic Coast Conference, which is Duke, North Carolina. It's all along that southern region of the East Coast and on around into the Gulf. And then you're talking about the Pac-12, which is the Pacific Northwest.
I don't think that's, in my opinion, has not been formulated yet, but they'll come up with some kind of an amenable plan that will include all of them. And don't forget Notre Dame. They ostensibly are an ACC team, although this year they'll be independent and probably next year too.
I'm old school. I mean, I'm a young person with an old school heart. I miss the Big Eight.
Oh,
I'm telling you, don't get me started. I miss the fact the SEC was just down there doing their thing, the ACC, Pac-10, and everybody was just, we were having fun. We hated each other. I mean, it's great. I mean, the football was the greatest. The basketball was insane, but of course, money talks and people's heads get bigger, and it's all about the biggest stage. So,
and sure, Jake, and you just hit it right there too. It's the money that talks, and I'm with you. I'm an old head with an old heart, and I do like those matchup. My God, Missouri and Kansas. I'm not even a Missouri native, but that Missouri-Kansas matchup was a tremendous rivalry, oldest rivalry west of the Mississippi, and I fully remember, as you guys do, when the teams were number 1 and number 2 in the nation. I want to say 2008. Chase Daniel was the quarterback, and Mangino was Kansas coach.
Oh, yeah.
And never missed a meal, guys.
No, that guy did not.
Anyway, they put on a show at Arrowhead Stadium the year they were 1 and 2 before Full House. They had almost 70,000 fans.
It was crazy. It was snowing.
And it was cold. It was
cold as heck. My wife was full-blown pregnant. We were making up the baby room, and I'm like, we should be there. She goes, no, I'm not kidding. This is the day of the game. And so I'm like, that's it. I got online, bought 2 tickets. We went. We lost. I'm a KU guy. I'm sorry, but we did lose. It was a great game.
It was a great game.
But we also went the game the year before when it was the same matchup, and KU got beat them. But no, I miss that rivalry. In fact, I think it was greater than North Carolina Duke. I honestly, and I'm biased, but those guys hated each other. I remember, North Carolina Duke, blood, Sweat. I mean, these guys put it all out. Talk about good times.
That was a
It's not the
real
same,
and a great matchup too. Two good teams at the time.
Yep.
Now recently it hasn't been that way, and they're not even playing now. And the ballyhoo or try to anyway, Missouri and Arkansas, and yeah, it's okay, but it doesn't have the same flavor that MU and Kansas did.
No.
We miss those rivalries, and it really comes down to money. You know, that's a sad thing. We've talked about it on this show a lot. I grew up watching Missouri State, SMS in those days, play the Drury Panthers. And man, you knew where people went to school at. You knew if they went to Drury, you know if they went to SMS. And it was hard then because Drury Drury has an extraordinary basketball program, men's and women's. But in that 70s period, they were extra special. And I don't think those guys ever have to buy a drink in this town anywhere.
That was a championship team that Drury had in '79, a national championship team. And again in 2013, they had one. Their match, that's a good point that you bring up, too, because the biggest crowds, now JQH Arena didn't exist then, but Hammond Center did.
Mm-hmm.
And you could cram 9,300 in there and make it loud, and they did. I think the fire marshal was probably, I don't want to see.
But the problem was that every other year they had to play it wiser.
They did later on. Yes, they played them.
You know what's wiser? What did it hold at that time? 1,000,
2,000, maybe at the most. Somewhere
so it wasn't really fair.
But the matchups, those players all knew each other, still do for that matter, and they were giving their all. I remember one before the teams ever got together. I think it was 1972 or 73. The Heart Association was looking for some kind of a fundraiser. So everybody talks about SMS playing Drury. Why don't we get that together? How are you going to do that? The month is May. They got the alums. They got the alums to come in there and play. Curtis Perry was here for Southwest Missouri State. The great Drury players, the Fredericks were all there, and Steve Hutchinson and all the really good Drury players. That, guys, was a monumentally outstanding game. It was an exhibition in May. You'd never have known it. McDonald Arena was filled, and the game came down to one final shot at the end of the game. And I think it was Randy Majors, if I remember correctly, of SMS, who hit it from the baseline, won by 2 or 3, somewhere around there. I thought, this is an exhibition? There's nothing exhibition about this.
We're about 11 minutes away from the start of the pregame show. You're listening to Ned Talk, your local pregame show on 104.7 The Cave. All of the area radio. I usually tell you about the weather this time, but the weather in Arizona doesn't matter because it is a domed stadium, so it will not play a factor in the game other than it will probably be hotter than hell there. So just to let you know that.
Have any of you guys ever been in Arizona?
I have a brother who lives out there. Yeah.
When I get back from Arizona,
I have never felt, and I grew up in humid summers. I remember when I lived in Cape when it flooded in the early 90s. That was one of the hottest summers. I still remember that summer. It was so humid and hot. But man, I remember we got out of the car outside of Phoenix, and it felt like I couldn't even breathe. It's like when you're I used to be a cook in high school, and you open that oven on the line and it just sucks all the cold air in, and just like that's what it feels like everywhere.
Well, it is the desert.
Awful.
Yeah, it's the desert, man.
I know it's awful, but everyone talks about it. It's just a dry heat. No, man, it doesn't matter. It
is the desert, and it's supposed to be hot, and you get used to it. But it is not dry heat.
It's hot.
So what's the over/under for the game tonight?
41.
41.
Yep.
We were right last week, weren't we?
Yeah, we
you
were
and I?
right. We were right.
Yeah.
We just by a little bit. Just by a little bit, but we were right.
Nobody says just by a little bit. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right, and somebody in this room is wrong. So let's talk about today's game.
All right.
What do you think?
I'm not going to be wrong this week. 41. And now look, 41. It was 36, guys. Come on.
That's what he said this morning.
Close only counts in horseshoes, hand grenades, and dancing, Ned.
Guys are.
We gotta stop picking on him. He's never going to come back.
They're teetering on the very edge.
I know. We're riding it. It's Friday. It's almost 6. We need to be nice.
All right, here's
his
what
liver's
we're going to
twitching.
do. We're going over the 41 tonight, and I think the Chiefs are going to run this ball club right out of the ballpark. I watched the game last night, very similar circumstances, and when Ned Reynolds turns one off in the third period, when his team is losing 32-0 like Philadelphia was to New England, hey, I wouldn't be at all surprised to see this happen tonight. If the Cardinals are not going to play their front line as they say they are not going to, and Kansas City is, that's no low contender, boys. I say over 41.
Really? What do you think, Jake?
I mean, think about 41 points is 31-10. That's a decent score.
It
Would you
is.
not agree?
Mhm.
I'm going to go with under.
Okay.
Definitely under. again.
Mike?
Definitely under. again.
I'm going to go with the old man.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to go with the over. I
All
agree.
right.
I agree with him.
Loser buys Village in.
I guess that's what we're doing.
I will. I'll accept that.
All right. Okay.
As we all reach for our
That sounds
gift
like a
cards.
plan.
Thank
You guys are buying us some pies. We're getting
That's
pies
right.
next
Heck
week.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
excited.
Yeah, well, I do. I think they'll go over because I agree with Ned. I think you're going to see the best of the Chiefs this week, and I think you're not going to see the best of the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah. It's unfortunate.
Yeah,
Especially
but-
since there's a lot of us that have been dying to see some things that, again, I don't think we're going to really see the true test yet. And we probably won't see it until September 12th in Arrowhead against the Browns.
And one of the things that I liked about what you said, Andy Reid has this way of, he'll say the guys are going to go the full half, but if he sees what he wants to see in 2 series, then they're gone. He'll be out of there. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. We're just about at the start of the pregame show with Art Haynes and the rest of the Chiefs crew, Dan Israel and the group up there. We have the kickoff coming up at 7 o'clock tonight as the Chiefs take on the Arizona Cardinals. Ned, pick a score for me real quick.
Okay, we'll say the Chiefs 28, Cardinals 17.
Jake, quick.
31-10.
I'll
Mike?
say 28-10.
56-3.
Oh,
Chiefs.
man.
That's
We're
what
getting some
that's
French
that's what I'm
pies
going
next
with.
week.
All right, guys. We'll see you next Friday night. We'll be on the air again at 5 o'clock Friday night. Get set for the Chiefs and the Arizona Cardinals. Thanks to Scott Meyer, Corbin Campbell, and of course, Mike the intern. Enjoy Chiefs football right here on 104.7 The Cave.